Hi, I'm Foronda.
Hi, I'm Angel. I'm an artist.
I am currently teaching English to Japanese students.
Hi, I'm Alma.
My name is Niccolo. I'm a photographer.
I'm a journalist
And I'm a vegetarian.
and occasional poet.
Hi, I'm Kim.
I am godless, atheist, free thinker.
My name is Vince.
I'm involved in lay pastoral ministry.
I'm a poet and a critic.
I do believe that an excess in everything is not a good thing.
Because gravity.
I like reading books and I love philosophy.
And I'm a unicorn.
As long as I'm cute, I'm okay with that.
Other than that,
Very interested in hearing people's story.
I have no other labels or identifiers for myself, so I don't know.
I believe in truth, at least I will when I find it.
Maybe I'm just me.
Hi, I'm Kim. I'm principal and principals. We have a very interesting topic today. Suicide. I've come to say in the myth of Sisyphus. Why haven't you killed yourself? Now we introduce our friends around here to make this topic very interesting. From my left.
Hi, I'm Nee.
My name is Niccolo.
I'm Alma.
My name is Vince.
I'm Angel.
So there, we'll discuss. Why haven't you killed yourself?
It's not yet time.
It's not yet time. I think our serious discussion here is about suicide, right? So, I don't know, have you guys ever encountered, people who call you, wake you up from that wonderful dream you're having, saying, I'm gonna kill myself? Now, how do you guys deal with that if people do that?
Actually,
Especially if these are your
I lost
friends.
2 friends last year from suicide.
To suicide.
Yeah. And surprised.
Surprise. How did it feel?
Shocked. Well, there's a lot of things to consider, and sometimes when they're dead, they're dead. There's no room for finding out why. And there's a lot of questions though, but sometimes questions are usually left unanswered.
Yeah, I lost two as well in the past. And that one guy, the first one, I saw him days before he killed himself. He really went to my house and he said, hey man, I need to get a copy of my Evangelion. That should have been a hint, like the really sick anime, right?
Yeah, I think thinking back, there's sick anime that they stash with you.
So far, I
It's a
haven't
bad
killed
sign.
myself yet. Still here. And so yeah, that is so true. No time for thinking why, right? So sometimes it's untraceable. You wouldn't know if that person talking to right now would have been thinking of that for years. Some of them they've been really trying so hard to do that. It would take years sometimes. Oh, okay, I failed today. Maybe tomorrow. You just
Some
need
of them are
interruption.
persistent about that.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Oh yeah. It's just a matter of time. That's why haven't you killed yourself yet? Maybe some others are just not successful yet.
Well, I think this is also cultural, no? Because I think it's different from the Asian, from the Americans to the Europeans, no? Because a lot of suicide I've encountered, no? Especially in reading newspapers. One, low self-esteem. Second, economic, no? And to us, to every Christian nation, no? They try to uphold this value of life, no? And yet, they may uphold the value of life, but they don't know how to value this life in terms of the total human person, no? That's why people are confused, no? They would think that they're religious, no? And yet, why are they so? They're still empty, no? In means of economically, they're poor. They cannot buy what they want, no? And yet, this religion is also telling them, no, that you have to embrace suffering, no? So, in my studies, this is something a little bit strange, no? Because I think supposedly with what I've gone through, no, is studying this religion I think goes beyond the practices. I think goes something very deep to the person, no? And one of the things I've realized is, who are you, no? Because it has to be an in-depth question, no? That you have to resolve, no? This is something that you have to discover along the way. Because in the European nations, I've heard that a lot of suicide is because of meaninglessness. No? Because I think this philosopher also has this philosophy about pessimism. No? That they don't find meaning in life. No? Parang
Which philosopher?
absurd. Camus.
Albert Camus.
Yeah, Albert Camus. No?
Come on.
And to some culture like Japan, no, it's a honor, no, that they kill themselves, especially when there is a question of their integrity.
Not only integrity, like giving your life to others, like in the time of war,
The kamikaze.
the
Right.
kamikaze. Yes,
Yeah.
they'd rather take that rather than come home alive. You'd rather should kill them yourself. Just like right now that 2 of them were captured by the ISIS, allegedly. Now the Japanese people are saying it's your fault. It's your fault that you're there. And some people that happened before in the past, that one of them was captured by terrorists, and they think that okay, you came back alive, but you know that's dishonorable. You should have killed yourself there. You should have let them kill you.
You shouldn't have let yourself be made into a bargaining chip.
Exactly.
You should not have become the
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Yes, yes.
Well, it's
yes,
obvious
yes.
that like suicide is looked at in different ways in culture
Yeah.
and in society.
economics.
But
Yes,
at the
yeah.
same time, we also have to remember that it's a mental illness. But you know, people do
Well,
glamorize
I think
social
I
suicide.
think it is, but I think in some other cultures it's not.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Well,
it's not,
that's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Like it varies.
That's
some
right.
cultures it's heroic. In some
Right.
cultures it's
Shameful.
shameful.
Yes.
Some cultures it's glamorized, like
Mhm.
with some kids right now, right? And but at the end of the day, well, not the end of the day, but I know that a lot of it has to do with mental illness,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And I used to think differently about suicide. I used to think it's just such a selfish act, you
Mhm.
know. But as I research more and even have people close to me that someone close to me that does suffer with mental illness, and it's just it is an illness, and like when we're sick we can't help but sneeze and cough. It just is, you know. And it's the same with mental illness and the thoughts of suicide. It just is, you know. And sometimes that's their only form of escape. Some people take medicine, some people think that's the only way they can stop, you know, what's happening in them. And there has to be a lot of empathy with that topic.
And there are the people who are terminally ill and
Yes.
just would
Yeah.
rather die with dignity
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is
than,
euthanasia. Yeah, this is
than
euthanasia.
die
Yes, yes.
in pain
Yeah.
and after a long drawn out period of being in pain
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
no hope of relief.
Yeah.
Of course, when you look at the way that many religions will see it,
Yeah.
generally Christians
Yeah.
will frown upon that.
Yes, of course.
Definitely the Catholic Church frowns upon
Definitely,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think Buddhists also tend to be a little, well, but you are escaping the karma that you have to go through. You will reincarnate and there will be karma to still work off.
Yeah.
See, many religions approach this as a negative thing. But what is it really? Especially when you talk about mental illness. You talked about that. I have some very good friends. They're brilliant people when their brains are in working order. But when their brains go out of whack,
Yeah.
Who was this latest comedian who just committed suicide? Because there's
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. It was only then that this topic was really discussed thoroughly, no? And it's really good for us to have a reflection or to think about these things, because Robin Williams is a very successful comedian. You just realize he just, like what you said, no? He just thought of just killing himself, no? Parang I cannot bear already what I'm doing or what's happening to me. I rather kill myself. That's something very shocking, no? As you said, no? But as a mental illness, this is something genetically compounded. No? This is something very hard to, at least right now, no? I've read in the newspapers that the psychiatrist, no, is trying to put forward the importance of the mental health, because this had been ignored, no? Because before, no, to talk with a psychologist, people say you're crazy, no?
Right.
Because that's a stigma, no?
There's a very big stigma
There's
to
stigma,
mental
no?
illness in the
Well, why do
Philippines.
you
I think that what you were saying earlier regarding mental illness, you misconstrue mental illness with suicide as being an effect or as being a cause for suicide.
I didn't
I
say.
think that
I
there
didn't
are-
say all of
there
it.
are-
I just
there are
said
conditions.
There's a
some.
possibility.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wait. Let's clarify that statement.
Mhm.
There are actually, I think what Angel was trying to say is there are mental illnesses that do contribute to suicide and
Mhm.
that may terminate in
Mhm.
suicide.
Yeah.
But her first statement was that
It's a mental illness.
Yes.
Well,
No,
in a
I
sense,
said
it's
that's
a
all
possibility.
aspects because
It's a
I said
possibility.
So
there's
you extended it
cultures.
toward that.
I said there's
concept,
cultures
but-
that believe in suicide as this. There's some cultures that believe that it as this. And I said, but there's also that concept of it's part of mental illness too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a strong believer in that. Like,
Part
okay,
in what terms?
what do you mean part?
Part? What do you mean by part?
What
Part
are you
of
meaning?
mental illness.
I don't know. Why don't you explain what you're meaning? Because I don't get what
When
you're
we
trying
part,
to
is
say.
is something part of the
No.
Is it
of
a-
How
is
did
it-
you
is-
understand it?
Is
Did
it
you
a
understand it
dimension
as a
of mental
dimension or a
illness
symptom
or
or
is
an
it
end
an
result?
is it an implication of what mental illness could result
I think
to?
you're generalizing everything. I'm just saying that we have to also accept there's an aspect to suicide is part sometimes of our mental illness.
Yes, but then particularizing on the matter without looking at the generality or the conditions that surround a certain subject is,
Well, why don't
well,
you
you're
speak
just
and enlighten
narrowing
us then,
it, narrowing
instead of,
it.
you know, why don't you speak and enlighten us then in your point of view on what it is instead of
I think that
attacking
suicide-
instead of attacking one subject, which I didn't even say is that's the epitome of all
Yeah,
of it.
maybe you would
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
share
yeah,
your
share
point.
your point of view.
Just share your
with us.
point, your
Yeah.
viewpoint, so that we can be enlightened.
I'm just wary of how
Uh,
your reasoning works, because I think that given the factors that you've all given, cultural, ethical, all the relative questions, I think that the point of suicide is that it is a paradox. It is something that is directed towards oneself, but at the same time, the intention behind such an act is maybe for one's gain. But it's paradoxical that your intentions are for yourself, but they are also not for yourself. So I think that the moral and cultural imperatives that are surrounding the question of suicide, as in the formulation of Camus with absurdity, is that outside of existence, outside of human life, what is there? Is there meaning? What kind of meaning do we draw or extract from life? And does suicide change that? I think thus that there are more questions that are inherent in suicide as a subject than answers. Outside the answers that could be provided by medicine or science.
Oh, I'm sure there are many explanations, lots of
Maybe
questions.
we
come
can
with
say
many
that's an
answers.
aspect of
Yeah,
of a
exactly.
reality, no? Because who knows why people commit suicide, no? But more or less we can just more or less try to observe and try to come up with our own conclusion and try to describe it, no? Because right now I think society is trying to face a reality that this is happening, no?
Mhm.
I remember.
And I don't think I don't think society would like to be killing each other. No, I mean, so they're trying to address this thing of why is people committing suicide. Although
Why do
that
people
philosophy
commit
is also
suicide? Yeah.
that philosophy also
With an
exists.
eye
No?
to prevention.
But the thing
As
is,
I
everything's
understand
valid. Everything's valid and everything matters. You know, all feelings. Until we physically get to the point where we're suicidal, we'll never fully figure out
Yeah,
why this
sure.
person wants to die and this other person wants to die. We
Yeah.
all have our
Yeah.
own. Every human being, for whatever reason, has their own version
And
of
whether
life.
or not it is acceptable
Yes,
to the
whether or
people
not we
who
believe it,
know
whether
about
or
it.
not, you know, any philosophical whatever can explain it, at the end of the day, we don't exactly know what it feels like, but it's real and it's there, and how do you accept it, embrace it, and work with it, you know?
Have
That-
you
or-
entertained thoughts of suicide?
I mean, everyone somewhat kind of does, you know, but not to the point where I'm,
Were you
There-
gonna put action
yeah, where I'm
to
gonna
it?
action, just
Yeah.
like we all have crazy thoughts. Like,
Well-
when I have a bad day, I want to stick my kid in the oven. I mean, people
Yeah, I
have crazy
know.
thoughts, you know, but
I
will I
know.
ever do it? Hell no, I'm not gonna do that.
Speaking as somebody who actually did try, when you get to that point where you don't care,
Mhm.
you don't call people up and ask them to save you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although in my case, it was because I tried to drown myself, and wonder of wonders, the waves brought me back.
Where did you drown
And-
yourself?
Pangasinan.
Mm-hmm.
So this is
Seashore,
like
seashore.
Yeah, the beach.
the
Yeah.
beach.
And okay, let's
And
skip
you-
over the details, because the more interesting part is not that I tried to, but because someone pulled me out of the water.
Was it an angel?
Mhm.
Angel.
Yes.
Depends on how you. Depends on your experience.
It was a human being who may as well have been an angel.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And who
you're
is now an
lucky.
You're
angel.
welcome. No,
You're
kidding.
lucky.
Okay, she pulled me out of the water, and she said that man isn't worth it.
Mm.
Of course, she assumed it was a man. I think the man was part of it, but it was a long time in coming. That was
Yeah.
just one of several things
Like the
over a
last
very long
needle in
time.
the haystack, like the last they said.
When it just felt like a good idea to go take a swim and not come back.
Mm-hmm.
And years later, I open the newspaper and I see a news item: teacher jumps off building.
Wow.
And it was her.
Oh, Lord.
It was over a man.
Oh, wow.
This was almost a decade, maybe, yeah, just a little more than a decade after she told me there's no man worth killing yourself over.
Maybe she found it.
No,
She
what
found the
went
guy.
through my head then was, could I have called her? Could I have stopped it? You know, I was talking to the rest of our friends. I was talking to her mom. She was like a sister to me. And nobody knew. It was just suddenly, as her mom put it, I got the call. I needed to identify a body. And when that happens, when someone actually commits suicide, I was talking with you guys earlier and I said, I'm not the most sympathetic of people for someone to call up and say, I'm gonna kill myself, because my words are gonna be, go ahead. And in case you don't know the proper way to slit your arm, it's not across the wrist. Okay? I tend to be unsympathetic that way because I am not a sympathetic person. In the same way that when I decided it was time for me to end things, I implemented that decision. Some people do that. Okay? Some people can disconnect emotionally that way. But when I had to face the why of this friend of mine who actually went and did it and didn't warn anyone, among the dozen or so of my friends who did seek attention with suicidal tendencies, and a couple who tried but didn't go far enough, that's when you realize that when the decision to end it comes, there is no swaying that person. Really no swaying that person. And it doesn't matter what the reason is. You can argue it, you can debate it all to hell, you can talk about its ethics, you can tell them they'll burn in hell. You can lay any number of penalties on these people that will happen after they die if they kill themselves. But if they think it's worth it, they still will.
Yeah.
It's the same way that someone will commit a crime, who will commit a crime, will normally think of what is the consequence and is committing this crime worth that consequence. Some people still commit the crime, even if they know the consequence. So, to my mind, it is not a matter of argument or ethics or religion. Understanding suicide is actually a lot more tricky than that. It's understanding the person who is nihilistic. Okay? When you deal with someone with suicidal tendencies, that someone could be a priest, could be a minister, could be a leader, could be someone you look up to, could be someone who's sweet and loving and caring, could be somebody who is nasty and repulsive.
Have you heard about what you call misanthropy?
Misanthropy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I think this is also a kind of philosophy that is existing, no? That there's a hatred, no? Pessimism, no? Yung parang,
I hate the world and I want to die.
not only that, no?
And
Because
they want to kill.
usually there are people who are driven by wants, no? Desires, no? Wants, and they like to pursue it, no? But once they pursue it, no, and they actualize to get this whatever pleasure that they have, no? They enjoy it for the moment, but after a while, they get bored or they search for another one, no? So I think this philosopher is saying that the human being is like this kind of person who's always wanting to
Is a
satisfy desires, no? And what do we do with it? how do we go about it? No? Because it's a reality. No? It's something hard to grasp, hard to figure out, but but it's happening. No? Maybe what we do is maybe the best thing is it happens. What could be a factor? What could be the origin? What because this everything involves in ideas, history, genetic. Because these are all compounded things, no. But for us, no, how can we be able to? I don't know what the word says. Find solution or
prevent suicide.
prevent suicide or what?
Work through the aftermath.
What
of
do
suicide.
we? How do we go about this? No, is it something acceptable or
I
because
think it's
this?
always healthy to continue dialogue and just really
Mhm.
talk about it because sometimes it becomes taboo when you don't talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to factors in the Philippines, for example, economics, diba? Like for example, here when if someone kills himself or herself, then you think, oh, she got pregnant, she went
masama ang
through
problema
some
niya. Oo.
like a lot of problems with families, whatever. I mean, it's totally different from maybe other cultures, but so the family probably wouldn't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
So it ends there.
No, and it is hard for the families of
Right.
suicides to deal with the fact that I think the most common thing I've heard, I'm also a journalist and I've had to interview parents whose children committed suicide, women, wives, husbands of suicides, children of suicides. And they all to a one would say things like, I didn't even know what was going on with this person. I didn't know it was so bad that this person couldn't handle it anymore. I don't even know why this person committed suicide. Or maybe I said something unkind. I shouldn't have said that to this person. Because there are the vindictive suicides who will kill themselves just so you'll regret having said the last thing you said to them. No? There are the suicides who are extremely vicious, so they're called suicide bombers.
Yeah.
People who commit suicide for a cause, like the kamikaze
Yes.
fighters. So suicide may have many motivations.
Yes.
The only way you will be able to find a way to prevent it is to find out what the motivation of the suicide is, which is difficult if these people don't even give you a sign they're going
Yeah, if
to
they don't talk.
Yeah, I think that's the root, whether it be, mental illness or your culture or whatever. I think the basis is just being accepting and open about your situation. But we're so bred to be okay all the time.
Yes.
We're completely fine when we're human beings, spiritual and physical and emotional.
Yeah.
There's so much happening that we don't see,
Yeah.
I'll put on makeup, but you don't know what's happening in my
That's
heart,
right.
And the bottom line is like, that's the whole point. We don't know what's happening inside you, but it's our responsibility to have that awareness to do it. But our society kind of shames us into being, vulnerable and open.
Yes. If when you're a child and
Yeah.
people ask you, so how do I look? And you answer, you look ugly.
Mhm.
Your parents are gonna shush you. Go, don't say that. We live in a society of do not say that. Do not
be
say
real.
that. And the older you grow, the more you learn to distrust people, and you're taught to not show your feelings because your mother might cry along with you, or your father might go out and try to, kill that stupid ass who, sorry, can I say that word? Who hurt his little girl's feelings. I mean, you have to learn how to, maybe not lie, but dissemble. To not necessarily say exactly what you're going through for fear that you will offend, upset, trigger a bad reaction, whichever of those three, from the person that you're with.
It sounds like it's another case of people pleasing, I can't be
Well,
honest. because
Yeah,
I
but
gotta
you're being
please.
raised to please other people
Yeah.
because it's a society and you're a social person, you're a social animal. You have to blend in, fit in, be able to coexist with people. So to a certain point, you must be a bit of a people pleaser, but not so much that it kills who you are, that you can no longer be honest with who you are. Because take it from the point of, I guess, the people who have talked to me about wanting to commit suicide, maybe not me. They would just say, I got to the point where I was lying to myself so much, I did not know what the truth was anymore. I didn't know who I was anymore, and if you don't have an identity, you're that lost. You cannot continue.
Who commits more suicides, is it the male or the female? I mean,
Whoa.
I didn't do
Whoa, I don't have the
research.
statistics. I'm sorry, I don't have the statistics on that for 2014, but I do believe I have the statistics for 2012.
could you share us?
There were more male suicides than female suicides. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have the exact number of suicides.
What was your
But the percentages were about 75% of all suicides reported were male.
Males.
And they were usually young.
On my end, yeah,
Ah.
so there are two males in their 20s, early 20s,
Mhm.
the two of them. Yeah, they come to the point in life that they don't say to anyone that they will do it.
What is their more as a social standing or is it society?
It's across the board,
Across
across
the board,
all, yes, across all, well, I think the only common factor was their gender, their age group, because that was
Mhm.
between mid-teens and late 20s.
One thing I've read, the America, when I've tried to read some articles, no, some of them may not be, well, committing suicide is usually harassment. They felt to be harassed, no, and they rejected and everything,
Yeah.
and therefore image, no. But there are some naman who do the opposite side. Instead of killing themselves, they kill people. So that's
Well,
a
that's a whole different
yeah, that's a whole different matter. But in
discussion
suicide,
also.
it's something very, very interesting.
And then
because,
there is the homicide suicide.
yeah, because a person like a historical person like Hitler was believed to have committed suicide because he doesn't want to be captured. This is
Well, you
this is
know,
speculation.
when they say that you're never going to catch me alive, then you already know why they killed themselves.
Yeah.
They say so. It is to spite the person who wants to capture them alive and put them on
Exactly.
trial.
Yeah.
Vince, you've been quiet. I'm sorry. What would you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
we can
say
share,
about
share.
this issue?
I don't know, perhaps the question of suicide entails what we know or how we see death.
All right. Yeah, that's interesting. How do you see death?
That's right.
I think
Yeah.
that death is beautiful.
You do.
Then I think people. Can I just
Yeah,
share this?
yeah.
When I went to my friend's wake, so the mother was hysterical and she said, "Oh, you know," she was crying and she said, "He left us, and you know, why did he give up?" You know, but you're going to what you said. It might not be actually be giving up.
Yeah.
Then I was thinking during that time, and I actually told her maybe what if you know he has a better understanding
Yeah.
that we don't, because you know us, the society and the church told us, oh, this is how life is,
Yeah.
And this is how death is.
and then this is
Yeah.
how death is, and this is
Or
what's
that
gonna
there is an
happen.
afterlife.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what's gonna happen when you kill yourself. You're gonna go straight to hell.
Exactly.
But you know, I personally think, aside from those people who have mental illnesses, those people who actually kill themselves, they have a better understanding. Like I think their way of thinking is much different from us. And because I grew up in the church, so I'm very much scared of that. I mean, I don't hear mass anymore, like, or I don't even pray anymore. But point is, you know, I grew up in an environment where, you know, I was made to believe that killing yourself is a bad thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I wouldn't
Well,
want anyone
generally
to...
for the people left behind,
Yeah.
suicide is a bad thing.
Yes.
But when you're the suicidal one,
Yeah.
it's actually a
You
pretty
don't
good
know the
idea.
story.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's their form of escape. Like, they might look at it as like a haven, not as like
Yeah.
a bad thing. Like, it's their refuge.
Or they look at
you
it
know?
as the solution to
Oh,
everything that
Exactly.
plagues them, which they cannot
Exactly.
find a solution to.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
when we're talking about the point of understanding, but generally, you know who want to and who don't. The ones who really want to don't speak.
Yeah, that's true.
The ones who do not want to die but want
Can I
the
actually
attention.
speak?
Diba?
Because at some point, yes, many times. That's why I said, you know, you would try many times, and then it just comes. Yeah,
It's just a matter of time before you succeed.
exactly.
So you tried.
Tried, but I was.
You tried or you thought of it?
I thought of it. I tried almost already hanging myself,
Oh wow.
but I was a coward, right? And so I'm still here.
Yeah.
Still here, and so what is my motivation of staying here?
Mhm.
So shallow, actually. Game of Thrones is coming up, yeah.
Gotta finish that.
Gotta finish that. Gotta stay here. I know one comedian who said, "Oh, I really thought of dying, but Walking Dead's coming out. Yeah, 3 more months to live."
Yeah.
I look for simple things
Yeah.
to keep me stay here.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so what else? What else do you know? What is your point of living, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, are you a nuisance to other people? I bet I might be a jerk to other people for sure. Like for saying that I don't have a God. And if I kill myself, believing I don't have a God, then I'll just go back to the universe and stardust.
As a star.
As a star, exactly. I'll be one with the universe. Yeah, all of my atoms will go back there to the universe. So I wouldn't be thinking of the afterlife anymore.
Well, I guess my father used to say, and he still does. You know what? I'm not afraid of death. I'm curious about what's on the other side. He's
Yeah.
86 and he's still alive, so I just keep telling him, you're gonna have to wait another day before your curiosity gets sated.
It's perspective, right?
You know, with me, I never really thought of killing myself because I don't think I've ever had any sort of that big of a problem for me to really take my life.
Mm.
But I've always been curious as how I would kill myself if I would.
If ever.
Yeah,
How would
because
you?
because I'm
Okay,
scared. Well,
we've got to wrap this up, but I have
Yeah.
to just make one very
Sure.
small point about the strangest suicide story I ever
Sure.
read. It was a guy who wanted to find out what the effect of injecting peanut oil in his own system.
Is he allergic to peanuts?
No, but it apparently in high concentrations, like I won't even say how many ml because somebody might
Try
follow.
it. Okay.
But let's just say a large enough concentration. In a large enough concentration, peanut oil has a psychotropic effect. So he was recording
Wow.
himself, and he was so high
Wait,
until
can
the
you
recording
explain
went.
to all of us what psychotropic
Alright,
means?
psychotropic
I know
just said
psycho.
you hallucinate
Okay.
with all your senses.
Wow.
So I was like,
that.
my brother showed me the
Someone's an
article, and I was like,
Very interesting.
I
I
was like,
I have peanut alone.
And what was his reason for committing suicide? He was a medical scientist who wanted to find out what would happen if
So
he
he's
did
gonna
that.
record it.
Yeah, he died.
He died.
Yeah.
The end of the
research.
article was the tape had reached a point where it was empty silence.
Wow.
This was in the
Where-
70s.
Okay.
Is
So I was
this
like-
available on YouTube?
No, it was done in the 70s. I don't think anybody posted it. It was my brother actually shared that from a medical journal.
Too bad he couldn't come back.
So
and
yeah,
tell us when he found out.
sometimes people commit suicide from sheer curiosity.
Curiosity.
So I think we go to the
Wait, can I just share that if
Yeah,
I'm gonna
go
kill
on, finish
myself,
that.
I will have to die beautiful.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you.
That's right.
Maybe,
Yes.
maybe trap myself in a freezer
Yes.
and then die sleeping.
Full face makeup.
Full fit. Yeah, and I've always thought of putting my like like Saint Bernadette like this, my head tilted on one side.
Well, there was
Vanity,
there were some
death.
case of overdose, right? Overdose of sleeping tablets or.
Yeah, I love overdose. I'm sorry.
whether or not whether or not I commit suicide, I want to be like I always tell my daughters, please take my head, have it shrunk, and put it on a keychain, and please introduce me to everybody. Like we want you to meet our mom. This is our mom. Mom, this is my friend. Of course, my kids are refusing. I will wear them down someday. Vince,
Perhaps I commit suicide every day, but it doesn't really.
show.
Yeah.
This is a new Vince
is
every
it-
day.
It doesn't really come to fruition.
Ah.
But
Yeah.
is it like a philosophical suicide? You will
I
say.
try to stretch myself to the limits of what I can do.
Wow.
All right.
Suicide.
So thank you again for joining us. This is Principles of Principle. Till next time.
Bye.